put the lime in the coconut, she drink a bowl up. She put the lime in the coconut, she drink a bowl up. She put the lime in the coconut, she drink a bowl up. She put the lime in the coconut.
You're listening to Where You Live with Gene Sullivan.
Welcome back. This is Where You Live. I'm Gene Sullivan, broadcasting from the True North Painting Studios. The show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, the Kim Bennett Agency, and Extreme Exteriors. Before we get back into our story about this new HOA regulatory agency in Colorado, trying to prove to the people there that they're important and needed, I just want to let all our listeners know we've got a free gift for you. We put together a bi-monthly newsletter. It's yours free. A lot of what we talk about on the show, we discuss in further length in that newsletter. People we have on the show also contribute to that newsletter. We have over 23,000 subscribers. It's growing. It's yours. All you need to do is give us a call during the week at New Concepts at 952-922-2500. Ask for Lori. She'll make sure that you start receiving your free copy either electronically or by mail. What we're talking about in Colorado, this new office, the Office of HOA Information and Resources, and how they have been trying to establish themselves. And as I said earlier, if there is a better example of proof that sometimes you can have too much government, this is it. These guys are just trying very hard to establish themselves as something that's needed, and the people in Colorado just are saying, we're not buying it. So they were required to, as I said a few years ago, have every homeowner association register and, of course, pay a fee to the state. Second year, they said, here we are, give us calls. The calls came in, and most of the calls were nothing at all. Maybe 477 calls were even of a complaint nature. And of that, we don't even know, and it was never even determined whether or not these were valid or not. But as I said, that 477, divide that among the 2 million people living in HOAs in Colorado, and you begin to realize this is a very minuscule, small number of people that are even complaining. Most people would, companies or corporations would love to be able to, they would boast if they had that kind of track record in terms of customer service and satisfaction. But the HOA Office of Information Resources didn't think this was enough, so they pushed even further. So what did they do this last year? Well, they said, we've registered everybody. We said, here we are, call us. And people weren't really calling in with a lot. So now the director the following year, and this last year, has gone out and said, we're going to have special meetings around the state. And they tried to set up a couple meetings, encouraging people to come. And I think they're probably hoping that, we can stir people up that are here that will actually show up to these meetings. And it was interesting. We reported last year on the show with the state of Colorado, the director of this department had a Saturday morning meeting, spent 3 hours. And what was it that the Colorado Springs Gazette said on March 25th, 2013? He said a large majority of those in attendance agreed that there is no real consensus that has emerged. In other words, there's nothing that people could say, yeah, this was this is a fire that is burning. Here is a need that we've got to take a look at in this industry. They were searching very hard. Well, what have they done from 2013 till today? Well, this particular regulatory agency decided to take a look this last year at what are the other states that have an ombudsman office or an office similar to ours. What are they doing? What are they coming up? as recommendations for the HOA industry. And so now, this year, here we are in January of 2014, the Office of HOA Information and Resources now has a recommendation of 6 items of changes that need to take place. Now, what's interesting is they said here that these 6 recommendations for improving the operations of common interest communities are in our state. The report says they are not recommending any major changes to the CCIOA. Now, the CCIOA is the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act. We have something similar. The initials are called MKIWA here in Minnesota for the Minnesota Common Interest Ownership Act. And so we have a state statute here in Minnesota. It's quite similar to Colorado in determining what can and can't be done with HOAs. There's good laws that have already been in place. And it's interesting, there are 6 recommendations, but none of the recommendations are to go to put anything into law, to have it established in state statute. These are recommendations that end up giving this particular office more authority and more power. And I think that that can be a very a very difficult thing to do. I think it is a dangerous thing to take place when you want to go and not establish something in state statute and law, but instead just want to give more power to a particular regulatory agency. The difference is that, in state statute, you're dealing with legislators, people that you have elected. And so those people have a lot more accountability to the people more closely, because when you elect someone and they establish something in state statute and law, you can say, I like it. I'm going to continue to support this person. If I don't like it, I don't vote for them the next time around, and I've put someone else in their place. That's not the case in regulatory agencies. These are appointed positions that people are put in, and so there is not that direct connection as there is in an elected office. And so, from that reason, to have those people to have more power without going through the state legislature, I think can be a dangerous thing. What are those items? Well, let's begin to take a look at what some of those might be. The first recommendation that was made by the HOA Office of Information and Resources in Colorado is they said, we need to phase out any distinction or designation between homeowner associations pre and post CCIOA. So in other words, what happened in Colorado happened in Minnesota. The homeowner association industry got established, and as it continued to grow and started to mature, there was a need for statutes and laws to be put in place. But there were some HOAs, because they existed years before these state statutes were being developed, they said, you know what? If you are in a HOA before this time when we're starting the state statutes, you are grandfathered in to your governing documents and what they say, because we're going to trust that you know what you're doing and what you want. If you decide that you wish to opt into the state statutes, you can do that at any time. And I can tell you, at New Concepts, we see that with customers and clients of ours all the time, where they're an older association, grandfathered in into their documents and not with what is updated with the new state statute and law. But they said, we want to do that. And so they go through the process of getting a majority of the homeowners to vote to update. And I think that's a good thing. But here, Colorado said, we want to do away with this. In other words, we don't think you know what you're doing if you live in an HOA. Just because you're grandfathered in and you think you want to keep things the way they are. We don't think that's true. And so we think that that designation ought to be taken away and that there's no such thing as something being grandfathered in. Well, is that really fair? I mean, how would you like to have that happen to you with building codes and your home? There are a lot of older homes that because of wiring and things that were considered code back in the 20s and 30s when the house was established and put together is not the same as code today. There are homes that were built in the 70s and 80s that aren't dealing with what the code is today in this century. Does that mean that you should do away with any grandfathering in? No. I think there's an understanding that people know and understand because something's grandfathered in. They may have something that may not be quite the same. And we've got government officials who understand that and can take the time to determine whether someone has something that's grandfathered in or something that is breaking a current state statute. But that is the first recommendation that this department says we need to have take place. What are the other ones? Well, we'll talk about that in this next segment, so don't go away. You're listening to Where You Live on AM 1280, The Patriot.